Imagine this for a second. The person you built a life with, the one who promised to protect you, suddenly rips the very symbol of your love from your hand, not because he despises you, but because he's choosing to save someone else. What would you do? Would you forgive? Would you fight? Or would you finally walk away? This is what happened to me. This is the moment everything I believed about love cracked open. I still remember the exact weight of the ring he placed on my finger 2 years earlier. It wasn't a flashy diamond, but a delicate gold band engraved inside with our initials. It was heavy with the promise of a steady life together, a bakery dream we whispered about on long bus rides home, and the quiet comfort of two people who had learned to be each other's anchor. We weren't rich, but we had plans. Every paycheck a brick in a future home, every late night a recipe we would someday sell to customers of our own. Our friends called us, the couple who had everything but money, and I thought that was enough. That morning the sun filtered through our thin curtains, making the room glow like honey. I was still in my robe, hair damp from the shower, when he sat down at the edge of the bed. His phone trembled in his hands. "It's Anna," he whispered, as if the name itself might break something. I had heard of her before, not in jealous whispers, but as a shadow in his stories. His first love, the girl who'd once painted his dreams with hers, the one he almost married before she left town. He told me she was a chapter closed, but his eyes now said otherwise. "She's in the hospital. Critical. They need money for an operation today," he said. His voice cracked like dry wood. "They don't have anyone else." I reached for his hand, trying to be steady. "We don't have that kind of money," I said softly. We had exactly enough to make our mortgage payment and keep the bakery's equipment order alive. Losing that deposit would push our dream back by months. He stared at me, eyes wet and wild, as if my words were a wall he was about to run through. "I'll figure it out," he muttered. Then he looked at the ring on my finger, his gift, our bond. His gaze turned desperate. He didn't ask. He just moved. It happened so fast. He tore the ring off, so quickly the band scraped my knuckle. The tiny engraving of our initials caught on my skin. I felt the sting before I felt the loss. For a heartbeat, we both froze. "This is worth something," he murmured, clutching it in his palm. "It can save her." His eyes were no longer on me, but somewhere far away, in a hospital room where his past lay fighting for breath. I wanted to scream that I was here, bleeding, alive, that my dreams mattered too. But I saw his desperation, the part of his heart that had never quite left her. I watched him slip on his jacket, watched his fingers curl protectively around my ring. He kissed my forehead out of habit, but it felt like a stranger's touch. Then he left. The door clicked shut like a verdict. For a few seconds I stayed frozen, staring at the space where he'd been. Then the silence in the apartment grew loud, filling every corner with a roar I couldn't shut out. My bakery supplier called to say the discount window had closed. My mother texted to ask why I hadn't posted wedding photos in months. Friends sent hearts on social media, unaware of the fracture in my kitchen. I sat at the counter and stared at the indent on my finger. It throbbed, as if the metal had been keeping me upright. When he returned after midnight, his clothes smelled like antiseptic and rain. He looked exhausted but oddly relieved. "She made it," he said. "The surgery went well." He tried to hold me but I stepped back. "And us?" I asked, my voice shaking. He had no answer. That night I slept on the couch, curling around the echo of my bakery dreams like a child holding a broken toy. The next days passed in a slow collapse. I went to work at the cafe where I still did part-time shifts to make ends meet, my smile brittle for customers. Bills piled up on the counter like warning signs. The supplier refused to fill my order without the deposit. He worked double shifts but spoke less and less, trapped between guilt and gratitude. When he was home, he sat in silence staring at the TV, but his eyes weren't really watching. I became a stranger in my own marriage, invisible except when he needed silence. Our conversations shrank to logistical updates. "Did you pay the electric bill?" "I'm working late. I'll be home after midnight." At night I lay awake listening to the faint buzz of his phone. Once, I caught a glimpse of a message from Anna thanking him for saving her life. My chest felt hollow. He had saved her, yes. But who would save me? One rainy afternoon, while he was at work, I opened the kitchen drawer where we used to keep our plans, notebooks filled with recipes, sketches of bakery layouts, cost breakdowns. I ran my fingers over the pages, remembering how we'd laughed at our own bad math, how we'd argued over names for the shop. "We'll call it the second rise," he'd said back then. "Because dough rises twice, and so do people." I had loved that. Now the words looked like a prophecy that excluded me. That evening when he came home, I asked him directly, "Do you still love me, or am I just another bill you pay?" He flinched, then said nothing. Silence answered where words should have been. Something inside me finally shifted. It wasn't anger. It was a tired clarity. Love couldn't live in a room where I felt like a shadow. The day I walked out, I didn't pack much. Just my clothes, my notebooks, and the small photo of us taken on our first trip together. I left a note on the counter that said only, "You saved her. Who will save me?" I didn't wait for his return. I closed the door quietly, carrying my own heartbeat like fragile glass. But walking out wasn't freedom. It was falling. I moved into a tiny rented room above a laundromat, where the scent of detergent clung to my clothes. I took extra shifts at the cafe to cover rent and tried not to check his social media. At night I replayed the moment of the ring, not just the tearing itself, but the look in his eyes, the choice he made before he even touched my hand. That was when our marriage truly ended, even if it took me months to accept it. Some nights I dreamt of him handing the ring back, apologizing, telling me I mattered. Other nights I dreamt of Anna's face, though I had never met her, pale and grateful in a hospital bed. I tried to hate her, but mostly I hated the story I'd been written into. I had been the supporting character in someone else's rescue scene, the one who sacrificed quietly off camera. Yet even in my lowest moments, a small voice inside whispered of the woman I used to be, the one who needed dough at dawn, who scribbled new recipes in the margins of bills, who believed in second rises. That voice didn't know how, but it refused to die. And so the seed of my rebirth was planted in the ashes of that night, the night my husband tore the ring from my hand. I didn't know it yet, but the same moment that broke me would one day be the foundation for something stronger. For now, though, all I could do was survive each day, one shift, one breath, one small act of hope at a time. Healing didn't arrive for me like a sunrise, clean and bright. It crept in like slow weather. One day you're sure it's still winter inside you, the next you realize the air smells faintly of rain. I spent months above that laundromat, breathing detergent and loneliness. My world had shrunk to shifts at the cafe and long nights of trying not to think about him. Yet a tiny ember inside refused to die. Sometimes I caught myself kneading imaginary dough on the counter, my hands remembering what my heart wanted to forget. One rainy morning, a woman in her mid-30s spilled her coffee at my cafe counter. She started to cry, not because of the mess, but because she was exhausted. "I'm trying to start a business," she confessed, "and everything keeps going wrong." Something in her voice broke my dam. We talked for almost an hour after my shift ended. I told her a little of my story, not the names, just the shape of the loss. She squeezed my hand and said, "You should come to the cooperative. They help women like us." She scribbled a number on a napkin before rushing out, leaving me staring at it like a secret map. I went, skeptical. The meeting was in a community hall that smelled of cinnamon rolls and determination. Dozens of women sat at folding tables, laptops open, notebooks full. Some were older, some young, all carrying invisible scars. A volunteer introduced me to a mentor named Pilar who had once lost everything in a divorce and now ran a catering company. She listened without pity. "You have skills," she said. "You have recipes, you have grit. Start small. Start now." Her words landed like warm bread in an empty stomach. With the cooperative's help I redrew my bakery plan. Instead of a brick-and-mortar shop, I applied for a microloan to buy a used food truck. I painted it sunflower yellow with my own hands. My friends from the cafe helped me scrub the inside and install ovens. I named it Second Rise, after that old conversation with him, but now the name belonged to me alone. It wasn't just about dough anymore, it was about me. The first day I parked it downtown, my hands trembled as I kneaded dough at dawn. The morning traffic roared around me. But the smell of fresh bread began to drift out of the truck, and people lined up. I had printed my story on a small sign taped to the window, "Baked with love, risen from heartbreak." Customers smiled, some with tears in their eyes. I sold out in 3 hours. That night I returned to my tiny room with flour still on my clothes and a small envelope of cash. For the first time in a long time, I slept without nightmares. Days became weeks. By autumn I was supplying pastries to 3 cafes, including the one where I had once been a barista. The cooperative helped me manage bookkeeping. Pilar taught me how to pitch to events. I hired a part-time assistant, a young single mother named Rosa who wanted to learn baking. We worked side by side, laughing when we burned a batch, singing along to the radio while kneading. The scent of dough rising at dawn became my therapy, my prayer. And yet, sometimes, in the quiet moments between customers, memories surfaced. The ring, his eyes that night, the life I had pictured. It would have been easy to harden completely, to decide love was a trap. But then I would see Rosa's toddler running to her after a shift, or a couple sharing a pastry from my truck window, and I would feel a strange softness. Life hurt, but it also offered new sweetness. One afternoon, as the city prepared for winter, I saw a familiar figure across the street. He was standing under an awning, hesitant. My heart lurched. He looked older, thinner. In his hands was a small box. He approached slowly, as if walking into a memory. I bought it back, he said quietly, holding the box out. Inside lay my ring, polished but heavier somehow. I sold my car to get it. I was wrong. I thought saving her would fix something in me. I lost you instead. I took the ring, felt its cool circle against my skin. A wave of old longing and new strength rose inside me. I'm glad she lived, I said. But I can't return to who I was. He nodded, tears catching in the corners of his eyes. I just wanted to say sorry. And, I'm proud of you. He looked at the bright truck, at Rosa inside shaping dough, at the line of customers. Then he left without asking for more. I watched him disappear into the crowd, the box still warm in my hands. I kept the ring not as a symbol of loss, but as proof of survival. I wore it sometimes on a chain around my neck while prepping dough at dawn. Its weight reminded me not of him, but of me, of what I had endured, of the life I had built from scratch. Some nights, as flour dusted my hair and the ovens glowed, I would touch it and whisper, "We rose again." By the next spring, Second Rise had grown into 2 trucks, employing several women from the cooperative. We developed new recipes together. We laughed, we burned batches, we started again. The trucks became a small moving community of resilience. Customers didn't just buy bread, they bought into a story of hope. Sometimes journalists asked about the name, Second Rise. I would smile and say, it's about bread. And about people. We all have a second rise in us. They would nod, but the ones who had been broken before always understood more deeply. They lingered at the window, sharing their own stories, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing. My truck had become more than a business, it was a confession booth, a gathering place, a proof of what could be reborn. One evening, as the sun set behind the city, Rosa asked me, "Do you ever regret leaving?" I thought for a long moment. I regret that it had to happen, I said. But not leaving. Leaving gave me back myself. She nodded, and we went back to kneading dough, our hands moving in a rhythm older than heartbreak. I began giving free baking workshops once a month at the cooperative, teaching other women how to turn family recipes into micro-businesses. We started a small fund to help survivors of domestic and financial betrayal launch their first stalls. Watching them take their first payments felt like watching bread rise through the oven window, slow, miraculous, inevitable. Every time I opened the truck window to serve a customer, I felt the world expand a little. Pain no longer defined me, it had shaped me into someone new. The ring on my chain was a relic of one story, but my hands, dusted with flour, were writing another. If you're listening to this and you're in that dark place, the place I was in above the laundromat, wondering who will save you, hear me now. You can rise. Even when someone tears the ring from your hand, even when your dreams collapse, you still carry the recipe for your own comeback inside you. It may take time, it may take help, but it's there. That's what I tell every customer who asks about Second Rise. It's not just about bread. It's about believing, again and again, in the power of a second rise.